Welcome to the class where tech takes the lead. Adam Todd here with just what you need. Teachers everywhere, let's elevate the game. With digital tools, we'll never be the same. In this podcast, we'll uncover the trends, from apps to gadgets on which we depend. Connect with your students in ways so fresh, innovative minds put to the test. In this podcast, we'll uncover the trends, from apps to gadgets on which we depend. Connect with your students in ways so fresh, innovative minds put to the test. Classroom dynamics where we all unite. Education future shining bright, with Adam Todd guiding us through. Teachers' paradise coming true.
Classroom Dynamics is supported by Logitech. As education continues to evolve, so does Logitech Education, your partner in content creation for the classroom. With Logitech's cutting-edge technology, students not only learn but also become content creators. Whether it's in person or online, Logitech's tools are designed to inspire educators and learners alike. Capture every educational moment in stunning detail and edit, produce, and share your creative journey with ease. Logitech Education, inspiring the next generation of creators. For more, visit logitech.com/education, transforming classrooms one innovation at a time. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, the podcast where we get into the exciting world of technology and education. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd, and on today's show we're diving into a topic that every teacher knows is the key to student success: engagement and differentiation. Now, as educators, we all know that a rigorous curriculum is only effective if it truly connects with every learner, and that's where tools like Quizizz comes in. Quizizz has revolutionized the way teachers approach formative assessment, practice, and review, making it easy to meet students where they are while keeping learning both fun and impactful. Joining us today is Carrie Swails, a former teacher and now the incredible mind behind brand and content management at Quizizz. Carrie and her team are on a mission to make engaging and effective learning accessible to all. With her unique perspective as an educator turned edtech innovator, she'll share how Quizizz helps teachers infuse energy and creativity into their classrooms while empowering students with personalized learning paths. Now, whether you're trying to boost participation or just tailor content to diverse learners or simply just liven up your lessons, this episode is packed with insights you don't want to miss. And it's all coming up next on Classroom Dynamics, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Every classroom has the potential to be extraordinary, and the Logitech Reach Adjustable Content Camera is your partner in making that happen. With its flexible arm and clear video, you can showcase everything from detailed drawings to live experiments, ensuring every student is engaged and involved. Whether you're teaching in person or online, Logitech Reach helps you connect with your students in a whole new way. Ready to take your lessons further? Visit logitech.com/reach and elevate your classroom to a whole new level. We're going to talk about a platform today that's not only going to save you time, but it's going to help give you more insight into skills that your students are either crushing or skills that they need more support with. Today, we're talking about Quizizz, and it's my pleasure to introduce our featured guest today, Carrie Swails, who's a former teacher and now manages the brand and content at Quizizz. So welcome to Classroom Dynamics. It's great to have you here. We're going to have a great conversation about this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So before we even get started, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what Quizizz can do for them in their classroom.
Yeah, so over at Quizizz, I wear a few different hats: brand, content, a little bit of product marketing. But before that, I was actually a teacher. So I taught third grade elementary, also taught art for a long time. Really excited though to be working at Quizizz. I think my favorite thing that Quizizz can do is actually our accommodations. So when I think about differentiating, especially as a former elementary teacher, I think about how tough it is to meet the needs of every single student in my classroom and make resources that actually work for everybody. So it's actually really great to work at Quizizz and be a part of like building a product that's doing something that cool.
Especially when you've already had that experience in the classroom and you kind of know where the kids have to go and you know the intricacies into, like you said, the differentiation and just managing all that. And of course, now using the technology to help with all of that combined.
Yes. I think a lot of former teachers that work at Quizizz are, we're trying to use our brains for good and hopefully fix problems that we all experienced in the classroom.
Yeah, why not, help those who are coming in and save them a little bit of time, right? Because they don't have that much time. Engagement and accessibility are important in 21st century classrooms. So what makes Quizizz so effective at engaging students and ensuring accessibility for everyone? Because that's a big topic too.
Yeah. So I would say, there's a lot of ed tech tools out there that focus a lot on student engagement. There's so many facets of student engagement. Oftentimes people think of tools that create gamification. For me in particular, I think about how engagement it goes so far beyond like fun, how to make learning fun. And it really is about like, how do we unlock materials so that students can even use them? If I think of like students, even in my own classroom, and I think about students who are behind for some reason or have an accessibility blocker, I think about like how nothing I create, nothing I teach can possibly be engaging if they actually can't engage with the materials. So if they can't read the material, it's not in their language, it's not at their reading level, maybe they have a vision problem, any of those things.
It doesn't make it fun then.
Yeah, you can't, it's going to be the absolute opposite. So I
Yeah.
think Quizizz moving in this direction of differentiation and accessibility with these accommodation features is so cool because it gets to like the root of engagement. Let's make resources that you use every single day at their core, just something that every student can actually look at and use. That's the basis of learning. And then on top of that, of course, you can add gamification elements. You can do serious testing if you need to. You can use different types of questions depending on your student interest. And all of those things work together, I think, ultimately to make a product that's really impactful.
Let's dig deeper into that. So how does Quizizz help teachers then differentiate for those diverse learners, especially those strugglers, like you said, those kids who are really having a hard time keeping up on grade level, and even English language learners for that matter?
Yeah, so this accommodations feature set that we launched around this time last year, it actually has, I think, almost 20 or so different accommodations within it. Each one is a different accessibility tool that you would need. And what's so cool is that I can go into Quizizz, I can set up my classroom of students, and I can say, great, these 3 kids, thinking as an elementary teacher here, they need text to speech. I'm going to turn on read aloud for all of them because they need that on every assignment and every subject. I've got a couple of multilingual students. Great. I'm going to put translation in there and find whatever language they need things translated into just for them. And then maybe I have a student who is autistic and gets really distracted by like the leaderboard that we have in Quizizz. I'm going to turn that off for that student. And maybe I have another student who has dyslexia. Awesome. I'm going to put dyslexia font as their accommodation. So I can assign these to each individual student. And then when I go into Quizizz, no matter what resource I'm launching for that class, now every time they get an assignment in there, or even now we just launched this for presentations. So now when I do a presentation, those students are getting accommodations that they need. So everything goes under one join code, which is what I love. Right? None of these students know that they have these accommodations. Nobody has to raise their hand and be like, Mrs. Swails, I really need you to read this aloud to me, because that's mortifying as a student. It doesn't matter how old you are. So everybody can just log in and everything is built just for those students, exactly how it is.
You hit a great point there, and it's that tailoring feature, right? A kid, you're right, maybe does know that they have dyslexia, or maybe does know they're struggling. And let's face it, kids that are struggling pretty much do know that they're struggling. But to then point it out again is probably not in their best interest. They're not going to do it. They don't want to do it. So of course, that then puts them at a little bit of a disadvantage. So that's good that the teacher can then at least tailor it to them so that they're in that comfort zone, and then they can start to build and hopefully gain momentum that way.
Yeah. Well, I think really the true power of accessibility, and speaking as somebody who has my own learning disabilities, is that we want accessibility to just be built right in so that nobody ever has to ask for it. And that way it just levels the playing field, right? I can focus on the information I'm getting. I can actually focus on what I'm learning. because these core needs that I have are being met.
Right. No, and that's the whole point of it, right? Because differentiation, sometimes teachers think differentiation is just giving 3 different levels of reading out, or, just finding a different way that they're going to do it with a particular small group. But that's not always really differentiation. Really, differentiation is 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. And it's hard to do because, let's face it, time is something that teachers just don't have a lot of, right? So how does Quizizz balance that rigorous curriculum with creative time-saving tools for teachers, especially when you get that teacher that's gung-ho? I really want to be able to differentiate for every single kid in my class. I have 30 kids. I would love to differentiate. I just don't have that kind of time. How does that then give them that upper hand to get that across?
Yeah. So I'd say all of those accommodations are built right in. So as a teacher, instead of creating multiple resources, you're creating one resource and it's just automatically being differentiated. Some of that is powered by AI, but outside of that, when we're talking about rigorous curriculum, we have our Quizizz AI built right in. And one of my favorite things about our Quizizz AI is that if you have, your principal, your curriculum admin, they always love to say, hey, I need you to use this science curriculum with fidelity. And when you're a teacher, you're like, I get what you're saying, but that's kind of a nightmare when like 50% of my students are not on grade level or considered what would be proficient for this curriculum. And so what I want to be able to do is take something like my science curriculum. Amplify comes with these amazing PDFs in their science curriculum and pre-made slideshows. I want to be able to pull all of that right inside Quizizz, just import it automatically. And I actually don't want my AI to generate something new from it. I want my AI to actually keep it as is. And so our AI actually does that now. It can pull in your Go Math worksheets, your science worksheets from Amplify, whatever you have, workbooks for social studies, and it will pull in all of your images and all of your questions exactly as is. The AI is now able to look at your question types that you have on worksheets and go, oh, this is an open-ended question, or oh, this would be good as a categorized question, and just automatically assign those within the product. So now you've just digitized your curriculum, right? Then you layer on all of those things that will help you differentiate for your students, putting everything at their own level. And then you've got, your classic ed tech part of this where it's going to auto grade everything. So you're saving time right away. You're not worrying about doing what I used to do before AI existed, which was I used to teach with Go Math, but taking my workbook pages and like screenshots of every single little graph or whatever, and then putting them in and manually typing in all of my questions.
A lot of time.
Just to be able to auto grade these things on the back end or have all of my data in one spot. Now I'm just doing that all within, under 5 minutes. I'm set.
Wow.
Ready to go.
That's awesome. So then I guess the data then is there for the teacher to look at. And then is it that the system can now auto go to the next level, or does the teacher then have to do something within Quizizz to prompt that to happen?
So if a teacher wants to take, let's say, that math worksheet that they've put in from their curriculum, and you're like, okay, I know these students could maybe use a little bit more of a challenge, you could go out and find something new, because usually I think when we're differentiating for students who are above grade level, it's really hard to find resources, right? So I would dive into the Quizizz library, maybe find something totally different for them. Or maybe I'm going to use AI to take that worksheet and say, hey, make this more complex for this group of students.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned, I like how you just hit upon that, because again, with differentiation, everyone has different views of what it is. And a lot of times, let's face it, teachers do forget about those high flyers. They can be differentiated as well. Just because they're up there doesn't mean you can't break it apart even further at that higher level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want you to be able to differentiate both directions, because it's not just helping your lower learners. It's also part of student engagement is keeping your students who are ready for it challenged and giving them something brand new. Some of our AI will also take anything that you do afterward in a report. It's called AI Analyze. It'll analyze and say, okay, here's 10 students who need to work more on this skill. Here's another 5 students who've got to work on this skill. Here's 5 more who are ready for the next level. Would you like to find these resources for them and go out into our library and find something a teacher already created with that in mind, focused on that specific standard or skill, And then you don't have to start all over. You don't have to find something brand new. You don't have to go out and buy your next thing online or go download another worksheet. We probably already have something you can just reuse.
That's great. I mean, think about it. It's almost like a built-in teacher's assistant.
Yeah,
You know?
that's what AI should be doing, is just helping you do the best that you're already doing.
Right. I agree. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore how you can get the most out of Quizizz and a look ahead as to what's possibly next. So stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Hey everyone, Adam Todd here, and I have to tell you about my absolute favorite must-have accessory, the Data Keeper Plus from Higher Ground Gear. Whether you're a busy teacher, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who wants to keep their devices safe and organized, this protective cover is a total game changer. With its sleek design, ultra-tough materials, and built-in storage for your essentials, it's the ultimate way to protect your tech. I take mine everywhere, and it always keeps my gear safe and looking brand new. Head over to hggear.com today and grab your Data Keeper Plus. You'll be glad you did. Data Keeper Plus, because your tech deserves higher ground. Teachers, are you looking for resources that spark creativity and inspire learning? Look no further than Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers. From comprehensive lesson plans and interactive lab books to engaging informational test prep passages, Highly Motivated has everything you need to keep your students motivated and excited to learn. Whether it's a quick activity or a full unit, these resources are designed to save you time and help students succeed. Highly Motivated, motivating teaching resources that engage and inspire. Search Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers today. Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics. Today we're talking with Carrie Swails from Quizizz. So let me ask you this. In your opinion, what are the most exciting or maybe the most underused features on Quizizz that teachers should really know about, that they're not aware of, but they, if they heard about it, they would say, ooh, I got to use that.
Yeah, I actually think that pulling in your worksheet and just using it to keep things exactly as is, it's like the secret that nobody seems to know about. And every time I talk to teachers about it, they're like, wait,
I could do that?
Yeah, I'm like, AI doesn't have to generate brand new things for you where you're worried about the quality. It could just be used to make this digitizing process really automated and easy. So that's one of them. But I would also say, in terms of underused features, I think Quizizz has this long history of being seen as only a tool for quizzing, really. I mean, think about our name. And only a place to maybe review for quizzes, or even a place where we only do gamification. And I think those were the foundations of the product when we started 10 years ago, but they're no longer the product that we have today. So now people are using us for all kinds of things, right? You can create assessments on here, whether it's for a rigorous test or it's just a fun gamification moment. But you can also create flashcards, informational text passages with a whole set of questions next to them. You can also use that setup to analyze media.
And can you bridge that with something that's already done that you've imported in as well?
Yes, you can.
Oh, great.
You can even take like an article from online and just embed it in and have the AI generate questions for analysis to go along with it. And then we also have our lessons feature, which is for presentations and slides, which has always been there. But in the last year, we've made some really remarkable improvements to it that I think are really exciting, including like a new toolbox at the bottom that makes it this really adaptable, incredible thing where I could actually, instead of creating like, my lesson for my whole group of students and then individual resources later for practice or testing or an exit ticket, I could literally do all of that in one lesson and just change the pacing from teacher paced to individual student paced. And then we launched accommodations in our slides very, very recently. So now when you're teaching, imagine what it is like when you have that multilingual student who needs to see everything in Spanish or any other language, or you've got a few students in the back who really have a hard time seeing their presentation or following along. I actually had a student in third grade who had Erlen syndrome and needed to see things with certain contrast levels in order to be able to read them. Or what if you had a student who just really needed big, huge font, maybe? now accommodations working on top of your slides allows you to select those options so that when you're actually teaching, now the slides are differentiated on every student's device. So your student who speaks Spanish can read the slide in Spanish while you're teaching. And so now there's like less of a delay, I think, because when I was a teacher, having to do your lesson, your core lesson that day, built for on grade level students, not really truly differentiated unless we're thinking about differentiation in terms of like student interest, student choice. Outside of that, for like their true needs and their levels, I would have to go back and pull them into small groups or work with them one-on-one to then provide that differentiation after they just sat there through something they couldn't access.
Right.
So I think it's so cool that we have this potential for students to actually access the information alongside your teaching.
You're cutting down the time that a teacher almost needs to realize that that's happening. You're dramatically cutting that down. And I think you're getting the attention of all the special ed teachers, the ICT teachers, all the, the support teachers out there, the IEP writing teachers who are saying, oh, wait a minute, now we can accommodate through something. Okay. That opens up a whole big new world now, doesn't it?
They don't have to be pulled out anymore. They can actually spend even more time in their classroom, not have to worry about making up work or doing.
And that's a big social emotional component there too, as well, because the kids that get pulled out, they know they're getting pulled out, and sometimes they're getting pulled out of a fun, activity just because that's the only time that they're scheduled for, or it just works in the schedule. So social emotionally, that is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that I look at and I'm like, wow, I really, truly wish I had had this when I was teaching, because I think it would have made my teaching just that much more powerful. And I think, all teachers really, truly care about this. But the reality is nobody has time to differentiate on this level. And for me, I just think about when I was getting my teaching degree in college, we all had to take that 1 semester long ed tech course. When I went to college, it was like learn how to create a website with HTML, which is not at all what we do today in the classroom. But I remember my professor saying, the reason you'd want to use technology in the classroom in the future is for accessibility, right? It's to differentiate. And I think I have yet to see, until working at Quizizz, an ed tech tool that's really focused on this need. And so it's a really exciting place to be, to see this come around 20 years later, like, oh, we could actually be doing this, and we could actually make it meaningful for every student. When we say every student can access these things, or that we want to reach every single student, what does that really look like? It looks like accessibility.
Right. You're giving the teachers those tools that they can use in order to do what you just said, to get to that point. Look, I'll date myself here. I've been teaching for over 25 years, and I went from literally chalkboards to dry erase boards to interactive panels in that time frame, 25 years. That happened pretty fast. And all the technology, like you said, over the last couple of years, especially since the pandemic, and I think that's really where things exploded because of the accessibility and the usability of technology to do what we had to do just to get from point A to point B before returning from the pandemic. There's a lot that's happened over the last couple of years. And just now, even with AI, I think we're seeing that even snowball even faster too, right? So how do you see going down the line now that we've gone through my life the last 25 years, how do you see the future of educational needs with Quizizz? What's next for Quizizz down the road?
It's really tough for us to actually say what's next, because I will say I've worked at other ed tech companies, and the Quizizz product team, our engineers, we move so fast, and we're really responsive to building what people actually ask for. So it's hard to say for sure, because we sometimes hear that a teacher needs something and we've got it built within a month.
That's great. So
I love that for us, and I love that for teachers, but I do think Quizizz will continue to pour into AI as a tool that will just automate things for teachers, save them time, allow them to focus on the things that matter most to them and what keeps them most excited and most passionate about teaching, and getting rid of those tasks that take up a lot of time but aren't why, you're all here doing what you love. And then I think we'll see Quizizz continue to pour into differentiation. And what does it look like at a broad scale beyond just personalized learning or adaptive question banks, really pouring into this idea of accommodations and building things that students can easily access. Two foundational pieces of Quizizz. I would say the third pillar that we're always building on is also just flexibility. So if teachers want to be able to do more formats when they teach, that's something that we're always excited to build. That's why I think Quizizz has so many different formats, including like we added interactive video last year as well, and why there's different modes that you can even deliver information in, whether that's like an actual serious testing mode or gamification. I think we want to make sure that we're being as flexible as teachers actually need.
Can teachers also connect to their Google Classroom?
Yes. So they can click to Google Classroom, Microsoft, Canvas, Schoology. We're adding even more. I don't think I could even list them all because we've added a bunch in the last 6 months.
Well, that's good because you're meeting the needs of all the different platforms and programs that are out there for teachers to use with their kids.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. Right after this, we're going to wrap everything up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. AI can save teachers time, but what if it could do more? With Your Way, AI is built specifically for your school or district, aligning cutting-edge technology with your instructional goals, strategies, and vision. Empower teachers to personalize instruction, create engaging lessons, and implement innovative practices, all while saving time for what matters most. Why settle for one-size-fits-all AI? Customize and build your way safely and seamlessly. Discover AI that works your way at yourwaylearning.com. Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics. This has been such a great conversation. We were just talking during the break about how teachers can now get started. Where do they have to go to do the very first thing? What's the one thing you suggest that they do first?
I would say the easiest way to just get started on Quizizz is honestly to experience it with your students. That's where you get to see the magic. So I would say find a resource on any standard that you're working on teaching right now. Our library is now really deeply standards aligned. We've been using AI to automatically tag standards on every resource. So you'll be able to find something for your standard and then go launch it with your class. Run it live or run it async, whatever it is. Just get it out there to your students and then start looking at the data. Or if you're doing it live in a classroom, just watch your students and see how much they enjoy it. I think that's where EdTech performs best. So the best way you can see how we work is just to get it out there, use it, assign something.
So where do they go? They launch the program, they're going to sign up, and what do they do from there?
Yeah, so you're going to sign up. You can have a forever free account. We have a limit of 20 different resources in your library, which you can archive if you need to. You're going to go to quizizz.com. You're going to sign up. We'll drop you right in on our explore page, which is right at the top. You can actually see a question like, what are you teaching today? You're going to fill out, what are you teaching today? Maybe what are you teaching tomorrow that you could, and you're going to search for a resource, and then you're going to click start or assign and give
you're
it
ready
out.
to go.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, Quizizz is obviously more than just a learning tool now. It's a platform that empowers teachers, engages students, and fosters meaningful connections in education. This has been such a great conversation. And, with its commitment to accessibility, differentiation, and innovation, Quizizz is definitely shaping the future of classrooms. So again, before we go, just tell everyone a little bit more where they can get started and any of your social media outlets that they can go and check you guys out on.
Yeah, you can find us at Quizizz on just about any platform. And I know anybody hearing this is probably thinking the word quiz, but plural. And no, we insist on spelling it with 3 Z's. So I would recommend Quizizz. That is where you can find us. We're on Twitter. We're actually on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. Those are probably the best places to connect with our team.
That's great. Well, listen, for those of you who have been listening today, thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you share what you've learned or any takeaways or reflections that you've had, and tag us on X at Class Dynamics or Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. You can also find all of our links, including information about our sponsors, on our link tree at Classroom Dynamics. And as always, we look forward to hearing your thoughts on our episodes and sharing the different ways in which you're using what you've learned. You can also help support Classroom Dynamics with as little as $3 a month at classroomdynamicspodcast.buzzsprout.com. Once again, I'd like to thank Carrie Swails at Quizizz, plural, for joining us today on Classroom Dynamics. I think teachers everywhere are going to be really excited to get started and try this out, especially with the depth that they can now go with. I think it's a wonderful program, and I really believe that teachers are going to utilize it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Classroom Dynamics, where knowledge and inspiration meets innovation. I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and found it both insightful and uplifting. As always, my goal is to provide you with practical strategies, engaging stories, and powerful insights that can fuel your motivation as an educator. I believe when knowledge and inspiration do come together, incredible things can happen in your classroom. And for all of you who think it's too late to strengthen your craft, I challenge you to make it your mission to do so. You've worked hard to get to where you are today, and it's never too late to infuse new life into your work. So why not make today that day to do so? I'm Adam Todd, and you've been listening to Classroom Dynamics, a teacher podcast. You can follow Classroom Dynamics on X at Class Dynamics and on Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. If you haven't already, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'll be back soon with more captivating conversations, inspiring stories, and strategies that you can implement into your everyday routines. Until then, keep igniting that spark in your classroom and never stop believing in the incredible impact that you have as an educator. You're more powerful and inspirational than you think. Did you miss our episode, Why Keyboarding and Typing Practice is One Skill You Shouldn't Ignore? We sat down with Dan Trepanier from Teaching.com to explore why keyboarding is more than just a basic skill. It's the foundation for digital literacy. From test prep to coding fundamentals, Typing.com is helping students master the tools they need for a tech-driven future.
There's been a little bit of a paradigm with students these days because there's the concept from administrators that students are very tech savvy. And they are, with their fingers, their thumbs, on a device that they can touch and move things on the screen, like an iPad, for example, or a smartphone. They are very tech savvy on those things. However, schools and districts are giving students devices with keyboards, and then they're asking them to take tests, and they're asking them to do work on the device that they haven't trained them on. And so Typing.com helps fill in that gap by teaching the basics of keyboarding